Is Dawn coming in? Oh, she's having a cup of tea.
Morning.
Morning. Just turn it up a bit my end. Yeah, good. I can hear you nice and clear, I think, now. Yeah.
Okay.
Good. Are you eating as well?
I was eating my toast. I told you.
Very professional. Right. Well, we've been a bit short of time this morning, but we're going to crack on and do episode 28, 20th of April 2020. Intro music. Didn't put a lot of thought into this, I must admit. Yesterday's was Ennio Morricone from the film Fistful of Dollars. Who starred in that, Dawn?
Oh, God. Is it an old film?
1964.
Clint Eastwood. I have no idea.
Yes, you got it. Well done. That's thanks to Hubert in Canada for that suggestion. And this morning's is coming up. And this is quite an old one as well. But it's, yeah, let's see if you won't spot it, but let's see. Hold on.
Not very professional, is it?
No, we've had a bit of a mess up here. Hold on. Here we go. Won't give too much away.
No.
I know somebody will get that if he bothers watching. We'll tell you about it tomorrow. And as continuing the new section of showing a photo of some of our biggest fans on here, and I think I mentioned the other day, Steve Fury, who coaches at Medway and Maidstone, sent in a photograph. Him and his daughter have had their hair cut, first lockdown haircut, and this is what Steve and his daughter look like. There we go. Isn't that nice?
Lovely.
Yeah. Fancy doing that?
No.
Yeah, very good. I thought they looked quite. It suited them. Yeah, very good. I think Steve's like that most of the time anyway, to be honest. But there you go. So a bit of feedback from yesterday. Remember, we were talking about things like sport through the age groups, managing your chimp or your emotions and things like that. We got a little bit of response from people. Hubert in Canada, he refers, when he's driving the car, his wife seems to develop what they call travelling Tourette's, not aimed at other drivers but aimed at the driver, and it's quite interesting. But he is able to deal with that. He gets his chimp to calm down, and he lets the other person blow out and eventually give up before he responds in any way. And I think that's quite a good way of going about things, and I've heard that from a few people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't normally take that route though, do you? You're not going to respond.
No.
Okay. And he was also talking about little acts of kindness and things like that. And I think Scott had given the story of how the lady stopped when he was looking over the bridge at the M20 to check he's okay. And Hubert said on one of his visits to England, he visited Liverpool, and he was so impressed. It was like all the locals had been briefed to look after tourists, because he said a number of them would come up to him and just check they're okay, check that he was okay, and knew where he was going and things like that. And he was very impressed, and that stuck with him. So well done to everybody in Liverpool for looking after Hubert. There is a difference between the north and the south, though, isn't there?
Well, I'm not necessarily where we live, but I mean, certainly in London, everyone's got their head down and charging to do whatever they're doing. And I don't think they would ever sort of like see that someone was stressed or in trouble or whatever, because they're all so busy. They're not so busy today, though, so perhaps they could just reflect on I don't know, just observation really. I mean, it is whether you notice someone, isn't it?
Yeah, it's funny how you can walk along and say hello to people, and some say, breezily say hello, and others don't. But as
Mm,
some of
well,
you never know what's going on in their life, of course.
you don't, and to be quite honest with you, maybe they just at that particular moment didn't want to say hello. You can call them whatever you like, grumpy, whatever, but there may be things that you don't underlyingly know what's going on. But when they're like that all the time, you begin to wonder.
Yeah, yeah. And Grazia also said the similar thing to one or two other comments where uh, she doesn't react immediately if somebody's angry, and especially with emails. She used to fire off an email back to them, but now takes her time to reflect before responding, which I think's always a good, if you can do it, always a good way of going about things.
Go and have a cup of tea
Yeah.
before you do the email.
I've always said that if you find yourself in a situation where both people are quite heated, it's only going to go spiraling downwards, and somebody's
Yeah.
got to break that and step away from it or come back to it later or whatever.
But you've only got to think of what used to go, what's been happening in London. There's been a lot more sort of knife crime, etc. That's probably two young people, got different opinions, who knows what they're fighting about. But it's landed up in someone being very badly injured, and nobody wants to go there, not in their right mind. And that could be alcohol or anything that's affecting them. But I mean, I do think you need to sort of like be in control of yourself most of the time. And I'm not sure anyone or everyone thinks like that.
No. Angie Crush also gave some feedback about controlling her chimp and not blowing too quickly, but she readily admits, though she will control it a little bit, she will fire off eventually. So watch out for angry Angie. But she also commented about kids in sport, and a tennis academy coach once said to her, I don't think it was targeted at her specifically, but in general, I think he was referring to parents. If you can call the lines, you are too close, which is both literal and a metaphor. Do you understand that?
Yeah. Well, what they're saying is that if you're actually there and you're going to say that falls out or whatever, in a sense, you are too close. You're on top of it. But also psychologically, you have to step back and allow your child to develop in their own way. And that, in an effect, that you are too close to them. Is it you pushing them or not?
Yeah. Good one. Right, now, I've got a few situations, and this little bit is inspired by many of our viewers and their feedback. It's how you would react to certain situations, and there's no necessarily a right or wrong, it's just how you would react. Okay, so the first one,
me personally.
yeah, be honest.
I am most of the time, Mark. If you have not noticed that I'm pretty honest.
Oh no, I'm impressed. And we tried it the other way where you asked me a question and that didn't work, so the first one, you've probably been in this situation quite a few times, but a parent or a coach starts shouting when they disagree with a decision, when you're an athletics official. How do you deal with that?
Well, it depends on what position I'm in. If I'm the referee, I would deal with it one-to-one, and I would go and say, look, I'm sorry, but I understand that you're angry, but you need to go and calm down. And when you're calmed down, come back and I will talk to you in a rational way. I will not be shouted at. And I do appreciate that you probably don't agree with the actual decision that I've made. But at the end of the day, we're doing a job. And to be shouted at and pulled down is not on. I'm sorry, but you might not agree, but have a little bit of respect as well.
Yeah, I think most people would listen to that. Did you get anybody who hasn't listened to that little speech?
I think the only time I've ever had one person when someone broke early in a break line, and he came and we had to DQ the athlete, and it wasn't a slight advantage. She was in the outside lane and she broke about 2.5 meters before the line. So she had quite a large advantage. And of course, she won the race. And the coach came up to me and he says, "I want a word with you." And I said, well, I'm not talking to you unless you've calmed down. I said, so please go away. "I want to talk to you now," he said. I said, fine. I said, I'll listen to what you've got to say, but please bear in mind that I don't need a rant. And he said, well, it's very unfair that you've disqualified my athlete. And I said, what do you mean it's unfair? She broke 2.5 meters before the break line. How can it be unfair? Well, she's won the race. You know, she's won this race. I said, no, she hasn't, because she didn't run the right distance. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, maybe I don't. I said, but I'm not going to change my decision because I'm the referee. And I said, no, you can leave the situation. And you're trying to be as calm as you possibly can. But there are other times when I just want to scream and rant and rave just like them. But you can't do that, because if you do, they've won.
Yeah.
That's the advantage there.
And how about an athlete themselves? Have you had an athlete lose it with you?
Well, I'm very sympathetic with athletes, because at the end of the day, they're only doing their best, and they've done the effort. And if I've have to go up and I always tell them, I do not allow them to find out from the results or anything like that. I always call them over and I explain the reasons why, etc., in the hope that they will take on board what I'm saying and learn from it. And I think you need that approach. You might be the referee or whatever, but you've got to understand that these are human beings and they have feelings too. So you have to have the right approach. Sometimes, that it's very difficult for them to accept it, and they might go away and then come back and then say, "Is there anything you can do?" And there isn't anything you can do. So
very good. Stop fiddling with whatever. You're getting agitated by even thinking about it.
I'm using my hands to express myself, and you just can't see that because they're lower down.
Okay, slightly more humorous one that you told me about. You're coaching. These are 9 and 10-year-olds, and you separated the group into boys and girls, and you got the response from one little lad claiming he was gender neutral, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Because I had the girls in the front. There was lots of them, and we were doing, I think we're doing 12s or 8s. I don't know. Anyway, there was lots and lots of them, so I split them up in girls and boys. I thought that was the fairest way of doing it. And this little lad pipes up. He goes, "Well, I'm gender neutral." And I thought, God, I'm going to think how am I going to deal with this? So I just turned around and said, "Well, your mum put down that you were a little boy, so you go in the second line."
And was he all right with that?
He was fine. He was fine. He was only he was just quick on the response of
Yeah.
and it was, and I took it as it was. It was a bit of fun. I didn't take it as deadly serious and the right answer, but I knew I had to deal with it in a sort of like fun way, etc. So, but most of, pardon?
His parents didn't come back to you in the future?
No. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all doing a job. I think they appreciate that we're all volunteers. We're doing our best, and sometimes we have to deal with, I'm sure they have more awkward questions than we do anyway at home.
So we've done angry people, gender neutral. Here's another one for you. You're in a queue for a shop and someone pushes in front of you. How did you respond to that?
Well, I mean, most people would say, "Oh, there's a queue." Today, in this day and age, it would depend. I mean, I'm pretty relaxed. I just think that might be a national health worker. That might be someone who needs his lunch because he's out delivering or something like that. And I'm pretty relaxed, because how many seconds is it going to take? One person goes in, it might take an extra minute. And to be quite honest with you, in this day and age, 1 minute of my life is not going to make a lot of difference. But I suspect if you were like queuing and there were 50 people in the queue and we were back to normal and someone just came in, but then I would say to them, most ladies, excuse me, who come up behind me and they've got a couple of items, I let them go in front of me anyway, because I think, you know, they're doing their little bit of shopping, etc. I just it depends on you, doesn't it? Really. I mean, some people get, all right, it doesn't really bother me.
All right. And finally, is a good one. Um, uh, Especially as you mix with quite a lot of the older generation as an official, but still a desirable lady, in the prime of your life. You have
Shut up, will you?
this is to do with the Me Too. What do you call it? Situation. A persistent old chap, maybe in his 70s, is overly tactile and complimentary persistently through the whole day. How would you deal with that? In other words, no, I don't want to put it in other words.
If he's just being friendly, that's fine. I mean, if he's trying to approach you for a date, that's completely different. I mean, most people know that I'm married. I'm up for a laugh. I'm quite happy to sort of like take banter, etc. I mean, I've put up with you long enough, haven't I?
So you're quite happy with that, are you?
Well, it depends on his approach. For God's sake. I mean, when you say overly tactile, I mean, you just sort of like...
Okay, he goes the extra step, he's cuddling you at every opportunity and stuff like that,
Oh, you wouldn't be able to catch me, dear. He's 70 and I'm a little bit younger, so that, I've got things to do, so I'd be picking things up and avoiding him. But avoidance is the only thing I have.
Oh, okay. What if you couldn't avoid him and he was just making you feel uncomfortable? I guess you've never had that situation.
No, I'm not that attractive. To be quite honest with you, I'd have to take the courage in my hand and just say, okay, enough is enough. You're getting too familiar with me. Please back off. And I would have to tell him straight, wouldn't I?
Yeah. Well done. Well, you handled those situations very well. I think everyone would be very impressed. And
I really want to scream and shout most of the time, but you can't.
Excellent. Okay, thank you very much.
See you later. Bye. Bye.